Welcome back, Andrea Vada, to the show, to the podcast. And Andrea is a professional counselor and teacher in Vancouver. And I think you mentioned a self-proclaimed life enthusiast. I like that. It's awesome.
Yes. I love how you emphasized the ass in enthusiast. That was
Did I
brilliant.
really?
It was great.
Okay. I try to emphasize the right amount of weirdness. Okay. Cool.
It's perfect. Love it.
Which is appropriate for the topic of this podcast, which is kind of like unofficially wacky humor, I'm going to call it. But I mean, like being playful with friends in conversation. You might have a better way of articulating the playfulness in conversation. But I found it so interesting because I was so proud of my conversation skills chapters in the book. And then I, put it out into the world, and I'm waiting for people to like, yeah, you should tweak this and tweak that. And I was like, okay, which area do you want to go over? And like, oh, it's not even in there. You didn't say it wasn't in there, but it's like, oh yeah, playing with friends. That wasn't in the book, and it should be in the book. I'm going to add it. But, the whole thing.
No big deal. All in a day's work.
That's why I say wacky. Yeah, improvisation or whatever. How would you characterize being playful with friends in a conversation kind of way?
How would I? I think it's really just about the interaction. I always tend to have like scales of behavior. I think I talked in the last podcast about, introversion to extroversion, but I think this scale too, in terms of like the depth of conversation, there's the small talk and then there's the deep and philosophical talk. It's like, hey, how's the weather, to are you afraid of death? And then along that continuum, there's all different ways to interact with others. And so I see playing as just a form of interaction, right? Like a way that you can connect with your peeps, or prospective peeps,
and
PPs.
That's the thing. It's a risky thing, right? Would you say risky in a good way? I would say.
I don't see it as a risk. I see it as a sure thing, and that's why I love engaging that way.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I say it's risky because, I don't feel like it's a risk, but I know that maybe the person could, like, humor, I think, is risky when, like, for me, I like kind of edgier humor, even though I'm a pretty calm kind of guy. But because I can sort of do it in a dry way, it's really unexpected when people hear it, because like, wow, I didn't think you were going to go there.
Right.
And I did go there because I wanted to see if you're willing to go there. You know what I mean? And so when it's a new person, you don't know what their humor is like. That's what I mean. So you could potentially offend them, but if you don't offend them, you could bond very quickly.
Totally. But I think that risk is present in any kind of engagement with a person, right? Like, you can be having a deeper conversation. You could be sharing your opinion on a particularly, heated topic, and you could offend someone, right? You could say, "Ugh, it's raining out there today," and the other person's offended because they're like, "Oh my God, it's raining out there today. This is great." Right. Yeah. So I think it's like, when you're getting to know somebody new anyways, the likelihood is that you're kind of doing that like nuanced like dance of like, hey, are you okay with this? Are you not okay with this? Right.
Yeah.
So just picking up on the cues maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there's small talk and there's deep talk, medium talk and medium talk and deep talk, I think, for a lot of people. But I think play kind of breaks all the rules, and it's like, I'm just going to go here now and there now. I think it's liberating from the usual categories, right? Does that make?
I totally agree. Yes. Yeah. And that's what play should be, right? Play has historically always been about letting go, right? And just immersing yourself in whatever is present. And I think this is the one and true way that I can connect with others. Like, I love it. It. Never stop, won't stop. Right. I was going to say a player for life, but that might have a different connotation for the viewers. So I love playing in friendship in terms of like verbal playing, for sure.
Yeah. And doesn't it mean that you kind of put yourself out there a little bit more than usual conversation? Because I think everyone's been in a room where it's kind of stale or it's very safe. And when I think of playful conversation, I think of the opposite of safe, not just with that risky element, but just sort of like, I may reveal something about myself here, And I think that people are going to appreciate it because now they feel like, oh, this is a safe environment to reveal something, even just something small. But, with friends of friends, whatever it is, like different kinds of situations, it can be very safe and kind of, I find it boring most of the time. I mean, that's really a terrible thing to say on a podcast.
Tell us how you really feel.
I mean, this is why I started Meaningful Discussions, because I'm allergic to small talk. I have an inhaler just in case. But I mean, it's...
and it can be challenging for folks too, for sure. And and if you come from a creative background, right, in whatever you do, then small talk can sometimes not be enough.
Yeah.
However, deep conversation can also sometimes be exhausting, right? And we don't always want to go there, right? So
technically, yes. What? We don't
always
be exhausting. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
For some.
Yeah.
For some, for sure.
This is good for me to know. Yeah.
This is good. Right. So for me, like when I look at playing as like a genre of interaction, it's an opportunity, like you said, to hit all of the buttons, to talk about all of the things, but it's also an opportunity to really connect with another person, right? And you connect very quickly if you do it right. Otherwise, you're like, well, see you later. Oh, you're walking away. Why? I've offended you. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
But it can be like a magical space in which to get to know somebody, or to just play with a long-term friend, right? Like to kind of go back and forth in that kind of a banter. It can be fantastic.
Can you remember like the last time you were, or an example of when you were playing with language or playing with conversation with people, what kind of thing topic or anything like that? I have one in mind. It was with a group of friends, and we were talking about renting friends just as a service. What would that be like? Because you can rent a boyfriend in China, I believe. And they've got the whole price schedule of holding hands, kissing, and introducing them to your relatives, because it's a shameful thing to not be married at a certain age for a woman. Right. So renting a friend, that was kind of like, and some people were like, is he joking? And I was actually half joking. So that was an interesting place for me to be, because some people were like, actually, I think that could work. It's like, are you crazy? Okay, perfect. We got those people in the same conversation, because I don't think you have to be completely joking or completely serious. And I'm trying to find subtleties within the playing to sort of not try to trick people or whatever. It's like, actually, I put this idea on the table. It's kind of wacky, and I don't really know how I feel about it, but I feel like it's interesting. So anybody want to run with this? I don't say it like that, but it's sort of like, I think that's what you can do with play.
Absolutely agreed. And I think if you look at like fundamentally what we're talking about when we're playing and why it works so well is that what we're essentially doing is we are co-creating, right? And so, most people, if they look introspectively, will recognize that they're at their best when they're creating.
Yeah.
Right? So if we're at our best when we're creating, and we want to bring our best to others in our interactions, then co-creating can be this like absolutely fantastic way to really get to know somebody, but also to feel really good while you're getting to know them, and for them to feel really good. And so your example of renting a friend, right? You put it out there as an offering. It's an invitation to others to participate. And if people want to participate on the level of like taking it very seriously and, like really thinking about this as like a concept, great. So they're still participating and they feel part of. And then for those of you that kind of want to play with it a little bit, right, and take it to some wacky places, that's great too, because you've taken an idea and you're growing it with each other. And that co-creating is an amazingly compelling way to connect with others.
Yeah, I think so too. And some people say you're either creative or not. There's still that kind of mindset or that thinking that some people are creative, they're born creative, some people are not. Right. And I guess there's a sliding scale there, but that's kind of a controversial thing. But this to me, like when I think of creative opportunities, they're around us all the time with every single word, whether you're going to be serious or playful or not. Right. There's creative possibilities in the way you can walk. Right. Everything you can be creative about. It's kind of like almost getting at that habitual thinking. And as they say, being in the moment and all that stuff, I suppose, right? But I think about with that with play too, kind of like maybe not being so serious about yourself too, which can be hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, it can be, and it can be challenging, and also like respecting the fact that not everyone wants to come into that space necessarily.
Yeah.
And that's okay. In the same way that people don't all want to be in the small talk, people don't want to be in the deep conversations necessarily, right? So so there's like that sweet spot, but you find out very quickly the people that you're most compatible with in friendship that way, just by offering something small, like the rent a friend concept, because you'll know very quickly. You can back away from it and be like, you know, if everyone's really serious about it, then you can be like, well, that tanked. But there can be also some just personal enjoyment for yourself that, you know, you put it out there, you put something out there, and it, you know, created into something that maybe you don't want to be a part of anymore. So you'll just move on to, you know, mingle with some other people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious to know if you agree with this, that there's different ways to be humorous with other people. You can tell a joke, you can tell a knock joke or a funny story or whatever it is, but it's almost like I'm going to have this attention in this space right now, and it's going to be this one-way thing, and it's going to work or not work, and it's almost like a little bit of stand-up comedy or whatever it is, because I want to create a funny moment, right? But playing, totally, again, that's got that co-creating thing, which I think is just... I don't know, I guess I keep on going back to risk or less risky, but I mean, not everyone's funny, right? Some people that are funnier than others. But I think that's the thing where I think this improv phenomenon is still growing, right? Adults taking improv classes, right? I mean, not just if you want to be doing that for your profession, but like, and you can take it with Second City or whatever it is, but you know, this playfulness, having permission to play, right? I guess. I don't know what my question was. I totally forgot.
Yeah, I'm like waiting.
Where's he going with this?
This is really interesting. How's he going to bring it to a cool point?
And this is probably edit this out. Anyway.
but I hear what you're saying. And I think like when you really think about, what playing avails itself to, like we as adults, we live in such a serious world, right? We also spend a lot of our time with our heads down these days, right? With our smart devices. And, you know, I remember back in the day, I'm dating myself, you know, reading the Sunday funnies and laughing out loud, like not LOLing, but actually, because we didn't have that acronym back then, but actually laughing out loud at the funny, because there was this permission on a Sunday to open that, to read something and to laugh at it. And I don't know that we do so many things in isolation now, right? Which is part of what your whole movement and vision around friendships is really trying to tackle. We do so many things in isolation, even laughing, that we don't even laugh out loud anymore. I mean, even when people use that acronym, like, did they really laugh out loud? Like, you'll never know because they're on the other side of the phone. So I think like having that opportunity to bring into the world an opportunity, like any kind of situation where you can have a giggle. Yeah. Oh my gosh, healing. Let's laugh the, you know, dis-ease out of our bodies. Like when we are laughing and when we can connect with others that way and we're creating this ongoing kind of building joke, it can be incredibly like cathartic and therapeutic and you feel a stronger connection with the people that you're co-creating with, right? And that feeling of connection is amazing, right? And you can take it out into the world as a tool just to connect with, I don't know, the person behind the counter, like that's providing service to you. Or, you know, I've done the one where, you know, you close up into the awkward elevator and you just turn around, you're like, you're probably wondering why I've gathered you all here, you know, and just for that moment, there's a light giggle and then off you go on your way. But you've connected with people in a really easy and safe way that didn't require anything necessarily further from you. But you got that nice jolt of like, oh yeah, hey, we're all here. Oh, hey, you know, life maybe isn't as serious, or it doesn't have to be serious in every moment. We can just universally play with each other. And we all remember what that feels like. Right?
Yeah. Well, when you get more comfortable with playing, you get more comfortable with playing, right? There's that thing. But you know, like you said, some people aren't as comfortable with it. And they used to say there's certain things you don't talk about in mixed company. I think it's religion and politics and something else, maybe. Sex. That was the third one. So but then you take away the juiciest of things to play with, right? Are you saying that, I mean, would you say that, again, you sort of take a chance, or, you know, in mixed company, would you just arbitrarily, if there's like awkward silences, do you have some like method that your brain goes into, like, I can spruce this up, like with the elevator thing, you did that, but, you know, I'm just going to go for it. This crazy thing was in the news or religion, or I'm just going to go for the three, sex, politics, and religion, and just see what people, like, suss out the room? Or how would you sort of go about your beginnings of play with a mixed, I mean, because with friends, it's another story. You kind of know them really well, but mixed company, I think, is maybe a harder one.
And when you're saying mixed company, I think you're not using the old school reference of mixed company. I think you just mean like people that you may know and people that you don't necessarily know very well. So
the old one sounds like
males and females. And I was like, pretty sure we're over the 1950s.
Yeah, not segregated washrooms or anything.
Okay. So I think there's ways to be playful. Like I think it can be like a loaded gun, right? Yeah. And you do have to be really mindful. And particularly in a world now where we are able to openly express such deep compassion for all people and that everyone has a voice, finally, that we really need to be mindful. Like you can play in a way that's safe.
Okay.
Right? In a way that's not necessarily where it's deeply debatable or deeply opinion, right? And so when you step into that mixed company, right, of people that you don't know so well, you usually can just kind of like drop something like little, it can be a joke about, maybe you're at a work training and there's something you could play with about the space or, whatever, like, well, sitting on the floor, like maybe is it nap time? Like whatever it is, but something soft just to gently like kind of jostle people and see where they're at. And if they're not there, don't do it. Like, unless, you know what I mean? You're a sucker for punishment. But I think usually it's welcomed, right?
Yeah.
In my experience anyways. And having a background as an actor, I'm playing all the time, really, like in my own mind by myself. So it's nice when you can kind of step out and do it with others, for sure.
Yeah. So what do you think the reasons are that some people are being held back either by themselves, I guess, not by others necessarily, but by themselves? Because a lot of these things are self-imposed limitations of fear or whatever it is, or rejection of saying something playful, right? In your experience, what do you think is holding people back from being more playful?
Well, I think, on the one hand, some people don't want to play, like that's not their preferred way of connecting. And that's absolutely okay. Right. Some of us are observers, some of us are participators, right? We all do things the way we do. So do that, like whatever floats your boat, whatever feels good, do it. Yeah. For those of you though, that are feeling this like inner burning and want to play, maybe there is a fear piece. Maybe there's the fear of rejection or that you're not going to be super funny, but you don't know until you try. And as long as you do it in a respectful way and you're mindful of your audience and mindful, just, there's a light way. Stand-up comedians, they cross the line. They push the envelope because that's really ultimately what they're there to do. They're not co-creating. Yeah. Right? It's a one-sided experience, and then you are having an experience as the observer to what's happening. So I suggest, like, tip number 1, don't go in there as a stand-up comedian, right? This isn't Eddie Murphy Raw. Again, I'm totally dating myself. Could I be more contemporary? This isn't Kevin Hart. Don't F this up.
Oh, yeah. Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the use of play and the use of humor is an opportunity again to co-create. And so we really have to think about what that means. Like that's about like stoking a fire together, right? Like that's about each person, being respectful of the other and what they have to offer to that piece, right? So sometimes it grows into something like really awesome. Sometimes it fizzles out, and sometimes it goes somewhere where you didn't really expect it to go, right? Because of the contribution of the other people involved. It's such a magical experience as long as you do it in the co-creating mindset.
Yeah. Okay, so now you made another question come to mind.
Uh-oh.
I don't need to say these things. I can just actually ask the question.
You could just, you're prefacing the preface?
I guess I am.
Dang. Okay. That got deep.
So assuming that nobody is perfect at playing with conversation, this is an assumption. I'm going to say this again after I do this.
Okay. Well, we'll just have a drink break.
Yeah. Then I don't have to do my preface of a preface or whatever.
It's true. We can just edit that out.
Exactly.
Excellent.
So assuming nobody's perfect at playful conversation,
okay,
would you say that you're still working on certain areas for your own playfulness that you want to maybe improve on? Again, that's why I put that, assuming nobody's perfect. But you might be perfect as a playful conversation. No. Yeah.
Again, everything is always evolving. Like the second that you think you're perfect, well, I think maybe that's just the next chapter of work that you're going to be doing, in my experience anyway. So, like sometimes it depends. Sometimes if I'm like overly enthusiastic or, I can be like a kitten with claws. I don't mean to hurt anyone, right? I don't mean to scratch. But sometimes, of course, my humor isn't for everyone. You know, it's an acquired taste. Totally okay. Like, So I don't always hit. Sometimes I really miss. And, you know, sometimes I have to explain myself afterwards, like, oh, sorry, I was playing. Or
when the cops come and because it got out of hand. And
right, as they're dragging me to the car and I'm trying to be like, somebody come bail me out. And they're like, what just happened? But what I do recognize as I've gotten older and as I've really recognized that it's this thing for me, like this is how I interact and have interacted with the world, is that I'm better at reading people than I used to be, right? I just walk in recklessly, you know, dropping bombs as I go, joke bombs, just so.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Joke bombs.
Yeah.
Play bombs. But now play bombs doesn't. Okay.
Joke bombs makes me think of like, this is a canned joke, like knock knock or something, but they're.
Well, I would like to think they were like highly intellectual.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. So I think, now I am much more receptive of the audience. I know what I'm actually seeking, which is that co-creating space. And I think in my youth, I maybe didn't recognize that. You know, you're looking for the laughs. But now I'm really not looking for the laughs. And when I just love to be a participant, right? So it's so nice when other people lay something in the middle of the room for you to play with, right? Verbally. And that you can contribute and you can be one of the contributors. And again, like I said, that there is nothing like co-creating. There really isn't. And so I've gotten better at it, I guess, over the years. And I think you also attract into your life, you know, people that will play with you. Whereas in my youth, I might have been in more kind of circumstances that didn't allow for me to always be able to choose the people that I was interacting with each and every day. But
sure.
As we get older, we kind of refine that. And so, like a lot of my day is spent playing. I love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm trying to get better at recognizing when I don't. Sorry, I'm going to just do this again.
He's choking. Okay.
I think for me, I'm trying not to dominate that space because I think previously I would have, because I work from home, right? And I think a lot of people work from home by themselves. They forget how long they're talking for when they get into social situations. And so I've met other people that don't know how long they're talking for as well. And I feel like, okay, I don't want to be like that. But when we're creating this playfulness, and I've got some momentum, I've got some great ideas I want to throw out there. Wait, there's 5 people, 6 people, 3 people. How much am I providing? How much am I actually taking away? I'm taking attention versus providing. I think I'm providing because this is such a great, funny idea. But really, I think it's really fun to maintain this balance and when to not talk. Because this person's got an idea and they're very soft-spoken perhaps, and they're just about to speak. And I could easily just throw my idea in there, but I want to hear what they have to say because they haven't spoken yet. And now the idea is being co-created and forming, right? So it's sort of like that art and a science to that magical co-creating. Totally.
And I think like what you're saying sounds to me like instead of being the comedian, you've become a facilitator for that co-creating thing to happen. And shouldn't we all be like that? Oh, and movie recording has been stopped automatically.
It auto restarts.
Oh, it auto restarts. Great. So this is captured.
Yeah, it's totally captured. That's okay.
Cool. Excuse me.
That's actually angled it away so it's not distracting.
I know, it's totally distracting.
Yeah. Lots of edits.
I know so many edits. Why don't we just go back? Why don't you just take your last
You were just going to commend me on that
good.
amazing thing I just said.
I was going to commend you on that amazing thing that you just said.
Yeah.
Which was that we really want to become facilitators when we're playing with others, right? And I think that that's what it sounds like you've evolved into. And what I try to, do in my interactions as well is that when we are, I know I'm overused this word, co-creating.
Yeah.
Here she goes again, folks. But when we are co-creating, we're co-creating when everyone is participating, right? When all of the people have an opportunity to contribute, and it's a really cool thing. And you taking too much space can ruin things, right? When someone kind of takes over, and hijacks the thing, it can be really challenging because now suddenly you didn't pay for tickets, but you're sitting front row for this comedic show.
Absolutely.
Right? So yeah, it is. It's a delicate kind of touch. But I think that's why if you keep in mind the idea that you're facilitating something, it's so much more fun.
Yeah. And by the way, don't worry about saying co-creating too many times because we can just make it, I can put a little text in there that people actually take a shot every time that you say it, right? And I was at a restaurant the other day where I was walking in and this woman was saying this really interesting story and everyone was laughing. I thought, wow, she's very, engaging and everything like that. And then throughout the evening, I realized she's still doing the majority of the talking. And I was just wondering how much people were interested in that. Oh, she's still talking. Like, maybe it was her birthday. I don't know. I guess there's time to be a center of attention this time. I don't know.
Well, again, looking at center of attention versus monopolizing a conversation. Well, is it really a conversation if you're doing all the talking? No, probably not. There are do's and do nots in terms of, conversing with others. And I think it's about being mindful about what is your objective in connecting with others about. When we want to connect with somebody, isn't it about hearing them and listening to what they say and then responding, right? Or sharing something that we're thinking and then the other person giving us time and space and then responding. We know that we're in a culture also where people are usually just listening to respond, right? Where they're just waiting for the dead space or that look on your face, oh, you're done? Okay, now I start talking.
Yeah.
In fact, was listening to, I was watching a podcast and I had to stop watching it because I was busy. And so I was listening to it only. And sometimes when you're listening to things, you just hear so much more, right? That you're not distracted by the visual. And they were talking about something really interesting. The person that was being interviewed had some really interesting things to say. And the interviewer was doing a great job interviewing, kind of like here, actually. Except that the person being interviewed really had a message that they wanted to share and wasn't really allowing space for the interviewer to ask the questions. And so that looked like a lot of yes, right, yeah. Throughout the whole interviewer's spiel. It was the most unpleasant thing to hear because it was really you're just waiting to talk. You're not even listening. And so when you hear that kind of thing, it makes me just even more mindful in my exchanges, we have to make space for each other. And we all have something valuable to contribute, whether we're playing or we're talking about really serious stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make me think of too, people have different definitions of what a conversation or an experience with friends is or can be, right? I think a lot of people go with the flow. I'm not putting down a lot of people because maybe I go with the flow too sometimes, right? Just we're going to hang out as friends, whatever. But sometimes that sort of mindfulness can be really great, even right before they arrive, because again, you can easily dominate the conversation, whether it's playfulness or not. Or just not being mindful of what you want from the friendship as a whole too, right? Because I think every experience is watering your friendship tree or your friendship plant, So again, it's one of those things I don't have a question for. I'm just throwing it out there on the table, so to speak.
That is okay, because that's and it is a beautiful thought. And you're right. We have to nurture our relationships with others, and part of that is being able to create space, right? Because that's how we let the other person know that they're valuable to us, right? And that we care about them is by giving a rat's butt about what they say, right? Like, if I sit here this whole time,
yeah,
I mean, that is my good side, but still, it doesn't make you feel, like we're participating or that we're co-creating, right? It just feels, So.
And I was just going to ask you, just to sort of maybe wrap things up on this topic, if you were to think off the top of your head of like advice for people in terms of being able to play more, if they're interested in being able to play more, not giving a rat's ass, that's one. I'm throwing that down there, right? Because like not caring so much about what people think is like a huge thing, I think.
Word of the day, rat's ass.
I think it's just ass.
Okay.
Yes.
This is brought to you by. Again, I think it's just finding that nice balance of being mindful of everyone in the room or everyone in that interaction and being respectful. Like you can play respectfully, and then just taking some risk, right? The thing is that it's not a stand-up routine. And so it doesn't all fall on you. So all you're doing is you're putting an offering out. You're putting an offering out and people either bite on it or they won't. And then it's just about allowing it to kind of organically create itself and take a step back. But I'm telling you, it feels so good. When you walk away from something like that, oof, it can feel really good. If you're that, if that's what floats your boat.
Yeah. And I think it should, because everyone should be like me and you. No, just kidding.
Well, that's it. Like, okay, kids. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea.
I tip my hat to you. Good day, sir.
Thank you. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, then please like and subscribe, and please help to support this project by donating on our Patreon page. Thanks.